joining us today. And objective of today's conversation is to really let our social investors and people who are tuning into the program to know more about what you guys do at Entrepreneurs Associates, the story behind it, and how social investing can actually support entrepreneurs in Nagaland. So the conversation is going to revolve around these topics. And without much ado, if we could jump into the conversation, the first thing we would love to know, Neichute, is the story behind Entrepreneurs Associates. So what was the inspiration for you to start something like Entrepreneurs Associates, and why the focus on entrepreneurship?
Thank you, Smita, for the opportunity, and thank you for being a part of our initiatives and supporting our ventures. You know, way back in 1992, when I was a young college kid then, we thought we needed to challenge the societal mindset of looking down at manual jobs and associating higher education with only white-collar jobs, especially government jobs. Because in Nagaland, we don't have industry and commerce. As you know, that a long history of insurgency, and the famous Armed Special Powers Act, which was enacted in 1958, was basically to be enforced in Nagaland, which unfortunately is now enforced in other parts of the country. But in 1958, it was only in Nagaland because of the insurgency issues. And till then, since 1958 till now, every 6 months, Government of India continues to extend what you call the Disturbed Area Act in Nagaland. And the very word that they always use, and they will use again on 30th of June this month, is that Nagaland is a very dangerous place, which you have come to Nagaland yourself, and you know it's not dangerous. Yes, there seems to be stray incidents of insurgency works, but Nagaland is no more in 1958. This is 2021. And so, but the way government has been branding Nagaland has not changed. And that's one reason why industry and commerce have not grown in Nagaland. And therefore, higher education in Nagaland has been always associated with only government jobs. We thought we needed to change this mindset. And so we took up porter jobs. We became laborers. We sold newspaper door to door. And I was the first to sell ice cream in 1992 in Kohima, because as you know, Kohima is a relatively colder town. Now, because of the climate change, people do sell ice cream and we enjoy it. But some 30 years back, it was not so. And this left a lasting impression on me that if we don't encourage the youth to think differently, if we continue with the trend of only white-collar jobs, we are not going to help our society grow and move forward. So for a brief moment, for 2 years, I taught in a college, and year 2000, we formed the Entrepreneurs Associates with the names big as you know, but the works were very small. We decided to encourage youth to take up entrepreneurship. So we provided basic entrepreneurial skills, and we provided microfinance by roping in what we call informal loan from the citizens, and we channelized that to become a microcredit to young entrepreneurs, to the youth, to take it as loan to start their activities, micro entrepreneurship. And after some few years, some banks joined in. And so today, what we still do is we provide microfinance for micro enterprises, and we continue training young people to take up entrepreneurship, and we create market linkages. Apart from that, the Entrepreneurs Associates is also into livelihood development. So the idea that we really feel very strongly about is to change the mindset of the youth and society to really appreciate other works, other occupation than just government job. And if we don't take up business, economic development cannot come about. Nagaland is the state in India which has the highest government employment ratio. Out of 19 lakhs, nearly 20 lakhs population, we have 140,000 people employed in the state establishment. And this gives a ratio of employable people. Out of 8 people, 1 is employed in the government job. But how can we continue? Because Nagaland state is a non-revenue state. If we don't create entrepreneurship, we cannot expect the government to reduce it to just employment agency. So deep concern that the Entrepreneurs Association has, and we try to promote entrepreneurship. When in the face of it, when banks are shying away from funding, we give funding of microfinances. For the last 10 years, the cash deposit ratio of banks in Nagaland has been around 35 to 36% only, which is dismally very poor. In fact, it is lower than even Bihar. No? So when we have such situations, for entrepreneurship to grow is really a challenge. And so when we get partners who are willing to support us, to build us up, we feel extremely grateful and privileged. So thank you, Rande.
Oh, thank you, Neichute. I think the privilege is all ours. And just going back to that, our first maiden trip to Kohima, and I think I would really like to share that that was one of the most, I would say, the safest field trips that Sanjana and I have ever been to. The warmth with which you guys received us, the interactions, the conversations. I think when Sanjana and I left the place, we left the place with this deep desire to revisit, to come back, and if possible, spend a lot more time there. And I think it was all because of the people we interacted with, and the kind of warm welcome that we received there. It was just amazing. And Neichute, just going back to your own, journey of trying to foster a culture of entrepreneurship there, I'm sure it would have been really challenging because one is the whole shift in mindset that you had to bring about, and then there's also, I would say, the whole. It's a big, in some sense, a generational shift, right? So how did you actually go about doing this? What were some of those challenges, and how did the young people in Nagaland actually respond to this? If you could give us a few stories, that will be really great, because it will bring to life some of the challenges that you have faced.
You see, the government became the only if not now, now we may not say only, but 30 years back, government was the only employment provider, because there was no industries and commerce. And so it was understandable for the society to think only go to the educated people. Now, as slowly things began to change, and our works at first was actually seen with cynicism, but government began to appreciate that. And in the year 2010, government declared 2 years as the year of entrepreneur in Nagaland to encourage young people to take up entrepreneurship. But one of the biggest challenges that I see is within the family itself, because the parents continue to hold on to the old idea of seeing government as the only source of employment. And so parents would refuse their children to go for entrepreneurship, or to go for even private job, or to go for self-employment. The other issue, the challenge that we see is because young people keep on coming to our office saying that they have no access to credit, which is true, because out there in the market, when I first started open street selling, me and my friend, and whom we also became, we were the founders for Entrepreneurs Associates. In 1996, when we were selling door to door, we had no money. So we borrowed 10,000 rupees at 5% interest per month, which comes to 60% in a year. And we managed to repay that back in 1 week. So you can imagine the amount of profit we got. But we sold door to door. We went to Guwahati, Assam, bought wholesale, and then we sold door to door and made it up. Again, when I started my own micro enterprise, I had to borrow 25,000 rupees at 4% per month, which is 48% per annum, compounded every 3 months. So this money loan from the money market or from loan sharks, even today, people continue to borrow even at 10% per month in Nagaland and to get loan from the bank. It's very interesting. This cannot be there, but it's still there. It's difficult to get even loan forms from the banks. So a few years ago, it was there out there in the newspaper, local dailies here, that from certain bank, people had to pay 5,000 rupees just to get a loan form. So now the situation is changing, but we still have very big banks, progressive banks, still clocking zero credit in Nagaland if you see the state level bank report every year. So credit is really an issue for young people to start, so they get discouraged. Many people come and join our Entrepreneurs Associates training, hoping that after the training, they will get small fund to start their enterprises. But I feel that these are physical difficulties, these are real, but the most challenging would be people's attitude and mindset. And that's why we work even with school students, college students, so that we help them change their mindset from looking only at government job to entrepreneurship. And so to me, for people who want to take up business in Nagaland, they will have to face their family expectations and help them approve what they want to do. They will have to fight out with physical structures of not getting funded because it's very difficult to get loans from the bank. And there are many beautiful policies from the government, but it's almost impossible to get any access to government policies. So they will have to really depend on themselves, which actually is the core issue for entrepreneurs. So they are lucky because of non-availability of funds and government support. Actually, and because of the family expectations that they have to fight against, entrepreneurs are grilled from day one. They want to take up self-employment and entrepreneurship. But the challenge is real. Social expectations are there. We don't get fundings from banks or from government. We are on our own. But if we don't give up, like in my own self and in one of my friends, for example, there was a young person in 2005 who came and met me after listening to me in a public lecture. And we gave him 20,000 to start in 2005, which was not very big, but still it helped him to start a small pawn shop. Today, he employs about 10 people. The biggest loan that he has taken from us was 40 lakhs, and he is class 5 failed. But if the story of, there's so many stories of such people, uneducated, drop out, but if they do not give up business, because the educated people are not willing to take up business, there is less competition and they can succeed much easier than in other places. But probably it will be so anywhere in the world. If people are hell-bent to do entrepreneurship, the biggest challenge may be our own attitude and our mindset. But we have hundreds of success stories where people have broken the barrier even without education.
Thanks, Neichute. There's something that you shared during our conversation on our visit, and that's still been a part of me, and I'm not able to get over this. It's a practice called Feast of Merit, and which is a part of your culture. And and when I actually met some of your entrepreneurs, some of them who had actually succeeded, in some sense, were following that by really incubating, supporting some of the younger entrepreneurs. So for people who don't know what this is about, Neichute, if you can talk about Feast of Merit and how it is still relevant amongst the young Nagas, if you can talk about that, I think that's something that our social investors would love to hear.
The concept of Feast of Merit, whether it really fits into the bill, we don't know, but that was labeled as Feast of Merit by the British colonial rulers and anthropologists who were studying our way of life. But this concept of Feast of Merit, sharing your wealth, became like an economic leveling ground for the Naga society. And that's one reason why in Naga society, you don't see wealth concentrated in anybody's hands, We don't have monarchs, we don't have nobles, we don't have kings and queens. We practice what we call the purest form of democracy. And that has probably, to me, I think that was possible because economic wealth concentration was not there in anybody's hands. So what did it do? Our society has shaped up, formulated a new concept called sharing your wealth. So when a couple become rich, instead of accumulating that wealth and leaving it with their children and grandchildren, there is a concept called feast of merit. They share the entire wealth with the community and they become zero again, but they get the right to wear certain shawls and decorate their house in no way which the other person who has not given feast of merit can decorate their houses. And this house the symbol can be inherited by their children, but the wealth is shared all along with the community. So a couple who shares the entire wealth accumulated, because in those days during the agrarian economy with barter system, paddy, rice was considered to be very precious, and mitoon and pigs were considered as precious animals because we are meat eaters. And so for 10 days, the community is given free meat, uh, free rice to eat. They share, they sing songs, celebrate, and they honor the achievement of the couple. But in the end, at the end of the day, the couple become as zero as the other community members. Now we thought this concept is so good. We thought this concept of sharing your wealth with others, helping, celebrating your wealth is good. And so in 2000, when we started Entrepreneurs Associates, we took our logo uh, from the house that used to be decorated for the providers of Feast of Merit. So till today, you will see our logo with that Naga house symbol. And the idea is when we take up entrepreneurship, and if we become rich, we must give back to society. And with that vision, we started our work in the year 2000. And today we ask all our entrepreneurs who have succeeded to give back to society by even taking up some of their own staffs to train them and give seed capital to take up small micro enterprises. Uh, and so many of our entrepreneurs, actually after 7, 8 years, 10 years, they have bought cars. They have given seed capital of few lakhs, 5 lakhs, 6 lakhs to their managers to start their own entrepreneurship. And that's a way of giving back. We ask our entrepreneurs to share their business skills, their learnings, because many people don't want to share their business secrets, but we encourage them to do that. We encourage them to become mentors for other people who want to take up entrepreneurship, because we think that is a way of giving back to societal development. And one of the famous statements that we use is, we ask the entrepreneurs to take society forward as part of their own progress. And so we encourage them to give back. That's our Feast of Merit concept of entrepreneurship development.
Wow, every time I hear you speak about this, I still get goosebumps. And, I'm sure, people who can't visit you and meet you in person, you've actually given them a glimpse of the values, the ethos that EA really stands for. In fact, I still remember a couple of my interactions with the entrepreneurs who were supported by EA. Some of them who were successful had actually incubated 3 or 4 more businesses. They had set up more businesses, handed it over to somebody else in the team to run it up. So it was just amazing. And Neichute, if you can, for our social investors, I'm sure they're wondering, many people, especially who invest just through the platform and haven't had interactions with partners like you, may be wondering what is the role that credit can actually play. Why should they make a social investment and how it can actually impact communities. If you can talk about how social investing can actually help change the narrative in Nagaland and what is the larger impact that it can bring about, I think that will be a key takeaway for our social investors from this conversation.
In the year 1993, I came across an article written, I think, in the magazine, which is no more now, but it was called Far Eastern Economic Review, I think. And in that, they have written a story about how in 1950s, Pakistan, India, Singapore, and South Korea started at the same, almost at the same platform. And they talked about the difference of investment. In India, at that time, the government of India was enamored, especially the great leader Nehru was enamored with the industrial development in USSR, and a lot of investment was made towards industrial development of the country, whereas in South Korea and Singapore, they invested in education. And so it's said that by Singapore had uh, 28 times more per capita than income in 1993 over India. And they also wrote a story about how credit changed Singapore and South Korea. In those days, after the North Korea South Korea war, U.S. offered millions of billions, in fact, billions of aid to South Korea, but South Korea refused to take aid. But South Korea said, give us soft loan. We will take loan and repay your loan. And so that was really touching. I thought, my gosh, how could it be? And they said that this credit discipline, the idea, the pride of not wanting to take grant, actually helped South Korea to come up faster. And I thought this can be applied even in a country like India. And I wish this is applied more in all over the country. So for me, I feel very strongly about the power of credit, because when we give grant, the idea of the whole uh, aid changes. When we give loan, the whole idea perspective associated with loan changes. People become more responsible, people begin to think, people begin to work. So for us at Entrepreneurs Associates, we don't have Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, FCRA permit, we don't. And we have decided from day one that we will not take foreign grants to do our works. For me, I have seen the power of credit changing the lives of many youngsters who wanted to take up entrepreneurship. And so we need the support of banks. But unfortunately, Nagaland always, for many other reasons, banks are not forthcoming. So for young people who want to start a business, they are really at the mercy of loan sharks, money lenders. And the lowest rate at the moment in the market is 5% per month, which is 60% per annum. So if we can reach out to people who would like to invest in us, even if it is not soft loan, that will be a great push, a great support to the entrepreneurial growth in Nagaland. And the soft loan that we are getting through Rangde for farmers, free interest loan, is really doing wonders. And I hope that such more bridge between people who can invest in the development of the youth entrepreneurship development for Nagaland, because this is important. Nagaland is actually the bridge between India's policy of look east or act east policy. If we don't develop entrepreneurship in Naga areas, which fortunately or unfortunately, when you say Naga areas, there are Nagas in Arunachal, which is bordering China. There are Nagas in Manipur, which is bordering Burma, and Nagaland itself is bordering Burma. And so the whole gambit, if we don't take into the local population to play a role, and if we plan out India's active policy only from Kolkata or from Delhi, it may not create enough for the desired dividends for the country. So when investors invest in the growth of a place like Nagaland, Manipur, Arunachal, they are actually investing in the growth of India's relationship with Southeast economy. It may take 10 years, it may take 15 years, 20 years, but the investors are actually building bricks for the country to grow.
Yeah, thank you so much, Neichute. And my last question to you is really about how the pandemic has affected businesses that our entrepreneurs in Nagaland are running, and what kind of support has been extended to them by EA to help them tide over this crisis. Because you are not alone in this; we are all experiencing this. Would just like to hear about the immediate effect of the pandemic and how EA has responded to this and what kind of support has been made available.
Yeah, the pandemic has been very tough for many people, but more tough for micro entrepreneurs, self-employed people. It has been terrible. They have not been able to pay house rents. They can't pay their children's fees, school fees, not to mention about having capital to restart their businesses. So it has been terrible for the micro entrepreneurs. We last year also we provided relief by asking citizens to donate and also getting the support of Caring Friends Bombay. Even this year, Caring Friends Bombay have innovatively supported us by giving subsidized ration, meaning 50% cost of the ration for the self-employed people, but also giving relief rations. So we are providing about relief rations to 500 families at the moment, but our um, work to get back on their feet. We have created a small fund with equipment and also some other social investors with zero interest loan, giving 25,000 to 50,000 free interest loan to them. And through Rande, we have given free interest loan to farmers. We are creating in the process of creating another fund of about 6% or zero interest to other self-employed people to get back on their feet. And we have provided this loan to street vendors and micro entrepreneurs. So the entrepreneurs who are, let us say, more successful, employing more than 10 people, their requirement could be bigger, but somehow they can fend for themselves. But the really needy people are those real micro basic entrepreneurs who really need a small credit to get back on their feet. And we have been talking with the banks. The banks are always positive whenever we talk, but when it comes to giving out credit, it becomes very difficult. So that's why we have formed our own zero interest loan of about 50 lakhs to support this group.
Thank you so much, Neichute. One of the things that we aim to do at Rangde is to really bring our impact partners, communities we serve, and our social investors together. And the impact leaders, this conversation is really to help our social investors, get them closer to Nagaland and the work that you do. So thank you so much for joining us on this edition of Impact Leaders. As always, it was wonderful talking to you, Neichute. And my second trip to Nagaland is going to happen soon. I think this conversation has just accelerated that desire to get back again to Nagaland soon. And I'm hoping many of our social investors will think of making a trip too after all this pandemic is behind us. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Sure, that will be fantastic. We will look forward to that meetup. And thank you for the opportunity to interact. Yeah. COVID-19 pandemic lockdowns has really disrupted micro enterprises and uh, the micro entrepreneurs or self-employed who are really at that bottom level of being earning their livelihood. To some extent, in our own small way, the Entrepreneurs Associate is able to partially take care of their problem by providing them with 20,000, 30,000, up to 50,000 loan free of interest for 1 year, for 18 months, maximum 2 years. But we are really helpless because our resources are very limited and we can't service those entrepreneurs who are to our category, our characterization of entrepreneurs, who are what we call successful. They have been in business for more than 7, 8 years, and they are actually generators of employment at the local level. They employ about 6, 7 people, 10 people, up to maybe 15 people They are crucial because they are employment generators for our state, for our society. But these people have no access to bank finance at all. And for them to get back on their feet, they do not need 50,000 rupees or 1 lakh rupees. They will need about 5 lakh rupees or 3 lakh rupees minimum or 10 lakh rupees to get back on their feet for about 1 year loan or 18 months or 2 years loan. No, and this not been taken care of by the government, whether you have Shushu loans or Tagore loans. No? These have not trickled down to those people in need. So we would really want to appeal to social investors if they can think to help out this type of people who are really able to generate employment at the local level by getting them back on their feet, even giving them 5 lakhs loan or 10 lakhs loan to start their business again after these 2 years of lockdown would mean that they would at least employ 3, 4 people in their micro enterprises again. So this will give hope. This will give opportunities to the unemployed youth in a place like Nagaland, where industries are almost non-existent. So this type of loan for micro enterprise from 3 lakhs to 10 lakhs loan will do wonders to get back the micro entrepreneurs back on their feet.
Yep, thank you so much, Neichute. I think the power of social investing in enabling these entrepreneurs is also lies in the fact that they can help entrepreneurs create more jobs in the local economy. So it's not just the livelihood of one person, we're also talking about the livelihoods of several people who are employed by this enterprise. Thank you so much for that. We'll definitely, share this with our social investors through this conversation and through our digital campaigns as well, so that the message is, communicated loud and clear. Thank you so much, Neichute.